Welcome to Good Screenwriting. I'm Trevor Meyer, and today we're going to talk about Terminator Genisys. Boo! Okay, that's not fair. All right, you know what day it is, people? It is August 29th, 2017. Does that ring a bell? August 29th, 2017 would be the 20th anniversary of Judgment Day. Not the movie Terminator 2 Judgment Day, but in the Terminator movies, August 29th, 1997 is Judgment Day. It's the day that Skynet took over the Earth and all that stuff. Launched nuclear weapons, all that stuff. So, in the Terminator continuity, that happened 20 years ago. So let's celebrate by, by analyzing Terminator Genisys. Now, this is going to be kind of a review, kind of an analysis type thing. Try to keep it short and sweet here. What went wrong with Terminator Genisys? James Cameron liked this movie. Isn't that interesting? That the guy who made the first two movies, who we hold in such high esteem, actually enjoyed this movie, which was bashed by the critics, bashed by the audience, and just barely made its money back. It didn't make a profit until its fifth weekend at the box office. It just barely squeaked out a little profit. So, what's the deal? What's the problem with this movie? Now I gotta say, full disclosure: the first time I saw this movie, I actually really liked it, and the same phenomenon has happened with Terminator 3, Terminator Salvation, Terminator Genisys. The first time I saw any of them, I really liked them. And then as time goes on, I rewatch them. I'm like, ugh, really? Really? I like this movie? And I think the effect of it is basically every time a new Terminator movie comes out, I'm so excited that there's any Terminator movie at all that I latch on to whatever is good about it. And I'm thinking, yay, I mean, this is the only Terminator movie we have right now, so I'm going to get excited about it. But as time goes on, I see that when I have them all lined up in my home video collection, I'm more likely to put in the first or second one than any other of the sequels. So, since I have a little bit of inner conflict about this, I want to get all of the stuff that I like about the movie out of the way right away, do a little purge here so we can focus on what could have been better. Here we go. What do I love about this movie? I love that we got to see the future war. I love that we got to see Kyle Reese get sent back. We saw the Terminator get sent back. We got to see John Connor give Kyle Reese the message to give to Sarah. I wanted all of that. I love seeing the first movie recreated with new actors or special effects to complete the Terminator. I love the battle between the two Terminators. I even love that this had a happy ending, that everyone survived in the end, and that they can actually have a life after this, and there are more possibilities, and they didn't just drag out the apocalyptic future of Terminator Salvation and just keep beating a dead horse. In a way, this feels kind of like Jurassic World, where Jurassic Park had one event in it that really mattered, and The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 just milked that event for all it was worth until there was no gas left in the tank. All of a sudden, Jurassic World came in and juiced it up and gave it a new beginning and a new place to launch off from for future movies. So this kind of felt like that, okay? And you know what? I like the fact that John Connor's the villain. That's controversial, but I thought if you're going to make the Terminator into the good guy, why not make John Connor into the villain? It's a great move that's perfectly in line with what happened in Terminator 2. Reverse expectations. James Cameron loved that twist too. All right. Done with that, okay? I've purged all positivity from me. Now let's talk about what could have been better, where the flaws were, what went wrong here. It does feel very light on its feet, which sometimes is good. In a Marvel movie, it's good. In Star Wars, it's good. Anything owned by Disney, that's good. Light on its feet, very fast-paced, very entertaining, very exciting, lots of spectacle, lots of humor. In fact, if this had a Marvel logo in front of it, it would be a great movie. And the issue is that people will inevitably compare it to the original and to Terminator 2, I'm sure. And you might say, that's not fair. You should judge a film on its own merits. I think it is fair, though. I think it is fair, though. And here's why. Here's my argument for that. Doing a sequel of any kind is a trade off. The plus side is that you don't have to come up with any of the ideas. You're feeding off of someone else's original story, and you don't have to come up with your own original concept. You're just continuing something that somebody else already built for you. All right? So that's the part that's easier. The hard part and the downside is that people are going to compare your sequel to the original. All right? And I think that's a fair trade off. Okay? That's why sequels, you know, they don't get judged on their own merits. They can't, because if you had a James Bond movie with lasers and, well, they did that already. I'm sorry, bad example. If you had a James Bond movie with time travel and lasers and explosions and robots and stuff like that, that might make a great Terminator movie. But you're like, what is this? Like this, they've gone so far away from what James Bond was. So just because an idea would work for a different film franchise doesn't mean it's good for this one, okay? So if you go back to the first one, it's very serious. If you go back to the second one, it's very serious. A little bit of humor thrown in just to offset the dark side, but the first two, I don't know if they were ever really designed to be summer entertainment. You play the spectacle in the trailers to get people into the theater, but once you're in, he had something to say. James Cameron had something to say. The first one, stone cold. The theme of the movie is that anyone can be important, and you have no idea what kind of impact you're going to have on the future. Okay, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure had that same theme. All these historical figures, and they had no idea that they were going to be famous historical figures someday. Okay, so Terminator 2, the theme is the value of human life and treating human life with dignity and respect and not taking it for granted. Even for killer robots, you know, finding your own humanity, losing touch with humanity, all of that stuff was important. Okay? Now, 3 and 4, they had some themes to them, too. And Terminator Genisys, I guess it has a theme. The theme is there's no fate but what we make, but they really don't dwell on it, you know? I mean, they almost took a step backwards. It's like Terminator 2 Judgment Day was like Logan, and Terminator Genisys is like X-Men Origins Wolverine. They focused on the spectacle. They made it a CGI fest. They took something that was poignant and real and human and turned it into spectacle. All right? So the story is too complicated. Now, I was able to follow it because, you know, I'm a huge sci-fi fan, and I'm the kind of guy who's spent hours and hours analyzing alternate timelines and stuff already. So when they started handling that in Terminator Genisys, I was actually really excited that they were thinking about that stuff and that they were actually discussing alternate timelines and things like that, because it's something that I had been playing with, you know, almost like in a fan fiction type way for a long time. So when they actually made a movie about it, I thought that was pretty cool. And I was excited to see that stuff. But here's the thing. That's the kind of stuff that fans talk about, and it should maybe stay there because the mainstream audience can't keep up with that, all right? They don't spend hours and hours thinking about alternate timelines and paradoxes and things like that. Your average audience member just wants to be entertained. They want an action extravaganza with human drama, real themes. Again, maybe the way they went with Logan was a better way to go with this, where you have, you know, an older Terminator and the daughter type figure. Not so much action blockbustery, but just make it real, make it human. Do some research, do more research, okay? So I've heard from Aaron Sorkin and James Patterson and Robert McKee, everyone agrees that essentially the cure for bad writing is to do more research. Why would that be? Because if you only focus on stories that have been written before, and if you only focus on fiction, then you're just relying on cliches, okay? You do a copy of a copy of a copy, and it starts to get stale after a while, all right? So I've been known to say that your concept for a film could very well be described as a combination of two other films, and that's true. It's a good place to start. But when you're writing, you shouldn't base every line of dialogue and every image in the film on something that you've seen in another movie or a TV show or a book or anything like that. Um, you need to do some original research and give it some freshness because all original stories start with real life. Okay? So James Cameron did research into real life. When you go to Terminator 2, that's like a real mental hospital. There's a real factory. Cyberdyne is built like a real company, you know? So Terminator Genisys, it's stealing stuff from Resident Evil. It's stealing stuff from the original Terminators. It's stealing stuff from, what was that? What was that monkey? 12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys. Donnie Darko. It's just stealing stuff from other movies. And it's okay to be inspired by other films, but you know what? Do some original research. Find out what it looks like in real life. And try to give it an original spin that people haven't seen before. Because real life is where all the good stories originate from anyway. Okay? So, I told you this was going to be a short video. So, what are the main points here that I want to make here? It gave me a lot of the cool stuff that I wanted from a Terminator movie, but it didn't do its own original research. It didn't have anything to say. There was no strong theme. It was too light on its feet. It was too popcorn. It was too funny. It's just spectacle for the sake of spectacle. It had no artistic aspirations, okay? At first I felt bad for the creators of this movie because I'm like, you know what? They really tried. They came up with a cool idea and they didn't get rewarded for it. But you know what? It wasn't enough to have a cool idea. The execution was poor. It was not dramatically sound and not nearly on the same level as the first two films, okay? The third one was too much of an action blockbuster, and the fourth one was too derivative. This one was a little bit of both, unfortunately. It was a little too derivative, and it was too much like an action blockbuster and not enough like a human drama based on real life, okay? So, whether you like this film or not, James Cameron is producing the next Terminator movie, so I'm so excited about that. And it may be directed by the director of Deadpool, which could be really interesting. So I'm excited to see where this franchise is going, and I hope they don't like reboot it again because I'm getting sick of every Terminator sequel erasing the one before it. I would like it to be more like the Fast and Furious movies where good or bad, everything is part of the continuity and you just roll with it, okay? You'll have Furious 7 make references to the Fast and the Furious. You'll have Furious 6 reference Fast and Furious, the fourth film. So, good or bad, it all counts, it all matters. I would like to see a movie that respects the continuity of the entire series, good or bad. Okay, and there's a way to do it. I may talk about that in a future video because I'm just for fun. I mean, this is not going to get made into a movie. Working on my own kind of spec script for Terminator 6 just to see if I can tie together all the disparate elements of the other sequels and try to bring it together in a meaningful way. But that's just my own fun project. So let me know what you think of this movie in the comments section below. This is Good Screenwriting, and I'm Trevor Meyer. See you next time.